Okay, all set. So hello and welcome to this session on investor services. And thank you, the audience, for holding up post-lunch. We hope it's going to be an interesting topic to discuss, and a topic that's not often been discussed in the asset management space. So let me start by introducing the panel members. To my right is Mr. Rajiv Anand, Group Executive, Retail Banking, Axis Bank. Mr. D.P. Singh, Executive Director and Chief Marketing Officer, SBI Funds. We have Mr. Vivek Purva, who's Managing Director, Franklin Templeton. I have on my left Mr. V. Ganesh, CEO of Karvy. Prashant Soni, Chief Executive Officer of Sundaram BNP Paribas Fund Services. And of course, Mr. Sankaran Naren, who needs no introduction, but nonetheless, we're very happy to have all of you on the panel with us. To get started, I think investor services has traditionally been a highly underrated element of the asset management business model. I think as we speak to multiple players in the industry, there is yet no clear consensus on what is the upside of providing good investor services to customers. I must say, though, that the downside of poor investor services is quite apparent. It has been talked about endlessly, but it is still an open debate on whether investor services can be a true differentiator to the asset management companies in the long run. So my first question, Vivek, to yourself is, do you think investor services is an important and sufficient condition especially vis-a-vis investment performance for an asset management company in the long run?
So that's an interesting question. There's no doubt that you get an investor in because somebody's selling you a product, or you're buying a product that has a good track record and good investment performance. So the investors come into the fund primarily, or want to come into the fund because that is a great track record. That is one. And sometimes because of a strong distributor push, even when they may not be a track record. I hate to say this, but that also happens. However, then there is the whole experience and the interaction, which you have to undergo, you have to go through the life of your investment, where you have concerns, you have issues, where statements don't reach you, you want to add to the fund, you want to withdraw, you want to redeem, and then comes the whole experience, the customer experience and the service experience. I think if that is good, then the impression you form of that fund house is positive. And so if performance is reasonably good and the service is very good, then overall you still form a very good, impression of that firm, and that draws you back to the firm. So I would say that in any service industry, and especially in financial services, the service element is hugely important. It's less visible. And it's less glamorous when you compare it to the fund performance. The fund managers are rock stars. The guys who perform the service are doing their job at the back and quietly doing it. But they go hand in hand. And I can tell you that if the service is not good, you will lose customers in the long run. Once they get out of your fund, if the service has been bad, they're unlikely to come back. So I would give a big vote for good customer service.
Fantastic. Mr. Singh, in your capacity as distribution officer, you obviously interact a lot with the distributors, with large investors, whether it is retail or institutional investors. So it'll be good to get some thoughts from you as you interact with your customers, including your distributors. What are some of the things that you're hearing around investor services, and therefore what's your view on how important or not this is for the industry?
No, I agree with Vivek that this is very, very important to have a very good customer service. And by talking with distributors and investors as well, this is the experience which they have after investing, But that will actually make or break whether we are going to grow or not. So while saying so, one more thing, it's not only the existing distributors or existing customers, but the customers, silent customers who are there, we have to take care of them as well. So as front houses, all of us put together, have to put some processes in place that it is automatic. I always compare it with banking industry. In banking industry, the thing is that anybody who goes to the bank, it's his need. He has to have a bank account, he has to be there. Even he has to fear that he will complain if he doesn't get a good customer service. Against that, in mutual funds, he can live without it. And really, you have to pull him with the good experience and good customer service. That is the basic difference. See, it's ever evolving, it's very dynamic. And every moment we have to look for the improvement, whatever everybody is doing. There's lots and lots of scope of improvement. And unless and until we give good customer service, not on the basis only we are duty bound to give service, but to give it as a passion, as that we should feel pleasure in providing good customer service. And this is what people want. They don't want only, today as somebody was saying whether they get statement of account in time or not, we have to go to the level that they don't need customer service by digital solutions. They should feel irritated by a statement is coming to me. That is the level, only then we will be able to get more and more number of investors, because the challenge is how to get more number of people. And the customer servicing other than the performance is of great importance.
Sure. Thank you very much. Now, Ganesh, maybe over to you. I think, we are hearing, of course, that investor services is important. At the same time, I think the mutual fund industry has unwittingly probably developed an overall reputation for mediocre customer service. Now, in your experience, as you sort of, go about managing R&T for the asset managers, based on your experience, what are the top, 3 to 5 challenges from an investor's perspective? What's really troubling them when they think of investor services and they think of their relationship either with the distributor or indeed the asset manager?
Yeah, thanks for that question. First of all, I just want to demystify some of the data that got produced in the morning and that has been discussed during the day. It might come with an element of bias, but data doesn't lie. Let me give you some perspective. So far as mutual funds is concerned, there is public data available. Most of the BFSI don't carry such data. Mutual funds, there is public data available. About 4 years back, we had as an industry about 70,000 complaints registered. And as we speak today, it's about 30,000 complaints. That's on an investor base of about, we spoke in the morning, 4.3 crore. A quick back of the envelope calculation will tell you that it's about 0.06%. Let me take some more public data. SBI Bank publishes in its annual report the total complaints versus the total customers that they service. It's in excess of 15 lakhs on a customer base of 22 crore. So that gives you a number of about 0.7% versus 0.06 that we are speaking about. Another bank, okay, SBI public sector, let me talk about a private sector, HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank on their annual report has reported 1.68 lakh investor complaints versus a total customer base, I would guess, at about 3 crores. So that's about 0.6%. There's no published data on the stock exchanges, there's no published data on depositories. Insurance, the lesser said, the better. Okay, so thanks for that. Yeah, so that's the perspective, first of all, I want to give all of you, not for a minute, given the industry that I represent, should I want to shy away from some of the challenges that we face, and some of them got published as well in the morning. And one of those has been about the quality of data entry that we commit. Okay, I definitely agree that there is huge scope for improvement as a singular focus area. There was another concern that was raised in the meeting, which was relating to the kind of rejections and the kind of lack of trust that it can create. I'm not very sure whether we would want to count rejection as an element of a drawback in customer service. Rejections happen in a bank, signature mismatches happen, checks get bounced. and so on, and so does it happen in the industry of ours. And there are no published numbers available for us to kind of suggest that whether this is right or wrong, but rejection numbers have to be improved over a period of time. We are sitting in an industry which is about 40, 50 years old if you were to take the non-private sector funds in place, and therefore that becomes a very important element. Let me also talk about the service investments that we as an industry has done, and I am speaking on behalf of my competition. The gentleman sitting on my left, who is also part of my competition, the kind of investments that the industry has made in our business, in my view, is fairly unparalleled. Let me take some data. There is no AMC in this country which has 200 plus branches that we have to offer. That's the commitment that we have made for investor service. There is hardly any bank that I can think of except the leading banks which have a common platform to provide a common account statement. Have you ever heard of getting all your bank account statements into one? Why is it that not happening? And when that is happening in the mutual fund industry, why is it getting cursed? Or not getting the recognition that people would want? Take mobile platform. The kind of money that we have invested in mobile platform as an industry is again unsurpassed. On a single click, we have an application called K-Track. CAMS, I think, has a product called MyCAMS, where on a single click, once you are on your own Android or iOS platform, you just download your application, take all your last 5 transactions, take all your last 10 trades, do whatever you want, transact, distributor assisted, on your own, self-direct investment, you can do all that freely. Now let me try and demystify where are we going wrong and what is it that we need to do as an industry. There were comparisons made between airlines, .com companies, not .com, I'm so sorry, e-commerce companies and so on. I'll tell you the singular difference in all of these is the factor of self-service. In the mutual fund, there is a doctor who writes on behalf of the investor, and there is a compounder sitting here who tries to decipher what the doctor has written. Whereas in an e-commerce industry, how many times does an e-commerce company come up and tell you, no, I will write it for you, I will fill it up for you, and I will do the data capture for you? Zilch. The guy does it on his own. If I type my name 100 times as V Ganesh, 100 times I will type it correctly as V Ganesh. There is no scope for error. Same way with the passport, same way with the transport agencies and so on. So the point with e-commerce companies is the biggest factor that brings that change is self-service. The point with airline companies today is also a lot of self-service. But if you go to an airline and they scale out because there's a huge, the air traffic control is not manageable, or they are cancelling a flight, have they been able to handle the chaos? I was coming to Bombay today and I asked, my bag was wet, I've checked in because I have to stay here tomorrow. My bag was wet and then the airline company tells me, oh, we gave it a free shower. So the comparisons have to be largely apple to apple. Again, as I say, the top things that we would want to do today for most of our clients, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, there are 10 products and services, be it a contact center, be it online investment, be it web-based transacting, be it mobile transacting, be it SMS-based transacting, be it a physical service center, be it exchange-based transacting, be it MFU transacting, we have integrated all of that. But the question is not about availability. The question is about usage. If you are not able to intensify usage and drive customers to that platform, it's going to be increasingly difficult to what is conventionally known as a check and app mode. Even today, as we speak, 95% of the volumes that we process are coming in check and app, which is check and application form being dropped in your front office. And then that whole data capture process starts, and then all the challenges associated with that start. So even in the McKinsey report, I was just going through the investor service section quickly. They are saying banks give excellent customer service, given that a bank is allowed to set up a customer account in 10 days, and that is guaranteed, and therefore you get some great, immense, beautiful service. We don't even get 10 hours to set up a customer account. By the time we get the forms, it's like 5 o'clock, and like 12 o'clock in the midnight, the investor is scratching his head. Can I see my statement? Is it QC pending? Has it got cleared? Have my allotment happened on T+1? On T+1, many of you here will be surprised to know, as an industry, we are the fastest settlers. 75,000 crores get settled every day without a glitch. Every day, day on day, for all the liquid funds that the industry processes, and nobody makes any noise. So I think, just to clarify, if I were to go back and say that, is there a challenge around investor service? I would say yes. But if there a challenge in comparison to other benchmarks, I would be brutally honest to myself and to all of you that it is far superior to what most of the other industries have gone.
Naren, maybe this question is for you, actually. If you do a very quick analysis of all the social media comments that, customers are posting, roughly about 30 to 40% of those comments are on post-purchase experience. And not necessarily all of it is investor services, in the sense that we define investor services, right? So, in your view, how do you broaden the post-purchase experience of the customer to products, to investment performance? And how does the pre-sale experience of the customer also have an impact on this post-purchase experience, especially given investment performance and product usage is very often a topic of conversation, right? So what would be your sort of take on that?
I think it's about the most important thing, because what happens is you can give a very good customer service experience, but if you had invested in infrastructure funds in 2007, irrespective of the mutual fund you had invested in, you could have only given customer service, not returns. So what happens is, thanks to the good work of CAMS and Karvy and all the other Sundaram and all that, they basically made the standard customer service almost something which is simple for everyone. That I would say that in the last 11 years that I have been in the mutual fund industry, thanks to technology, and thanks to all the providers of technology for the industry, we have managed to move so much that the hygiene factors have now been taken care of. Once the hygiene factors are taken care of, you come to areas like investment performance. And there I believe that a lot of effort has to be spent on creating the right product strategy. And because when I think about the quantum of money which is lying in fixed deposits with banks and the quantum of money which is there in equity mutual funds, and the return differential between equity mutual funds and bank deposits over the last 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, the gap is so large in returns, but the assets are still with the banks. Why? Because we've given an investor experience which is very different from the market returns. So I think a lot of time, if you ask me, customer service, thanks to good technology, is also about now planning for the right products at the right time. And there I believe, obviously it is not like customer service where you can guarantee that a statement of account goes at a particular time. Here, there is no certainty because there are a lot of events which will come, like Greece now, which doesn't guarantee investment returns, but we have to work to creating a good investor experience. And I think that whole process is a continuing process. What is the problem in that process is because even today, the industry is measured by the assets under management. What happens is, I'm still worried when a big bull market happens, like 2007. In that year, how do you moderate the expectations and get people into products which are sensible at that point of time? Those products which are sensible at that point of time will be earning the lowest returns. And the products like an infra fund of 2007 or technology fund of 2000 will be earning the best returns. How do you focus customer service and say, boss, please invest in the products which are not doing well in the last 1 year or 2 year or 3 years, but these are the products which you have to invest for the next 5 years. I don't know how it's going to happen, because finally, this whole emotional problem which happens and behavioral investing has not been solved, that when a year like 2007 comes, how the industry behaves will determine customer service, because in 2007 finally no one could sell debt fund, no one could sell anything else other than an infra fund. And that kind of a year comes, that year if the industry is managing to give good customer service, that would mean selling low risk products in that year. That whether we'll be able to do, I don't know. That I will be able to answer after the next boom. So when this whole question of closed-end funds came, you know, we had a view that closed-end funds launched at the beginning of a bull market doesn't cause problem. That was our last experience. And when you offer a pure dividend option is not a customer service, but a pure dividend option meant that as the market boomed last year, there were products where we could give 2-3 dividends. So I would say customer service, if you loosely think of it as only the form that goes or the daily NAV goes, and if you look at it more broadly, I think there is a lot that can be done, and a lot of it will be based on the best of intentions, because sometimes what happens is you can't predict the market, and so customer service should be much broader. It can't be looked at only handling customer queries. You have to give a good investor experience, and what the average investor wants for 90 lakh crores is fixed deposit return. So if we are able to give something which is a good, pleasant experience, I think people don't want 30-40%. So that is something we have a tough job to control distributors, explain to distributors that the highest one-year return scheme in a small cap is not justified. These are some of the jobs that we have, and it's a continuing process. I would say the industry has evolved substantially in the last 11 years, but what I see finally in a bubble, whether the industry will lapse back, possible, because that is the global experience.
No, that's a very interesting view actually. So one question to you is, if you take this expanded view of investor services, then who in your mind would be the key stakeholders in this? Who are the folks who can actually really go out there and impact customer experience?
Actually, in our firm, you know, what product strategy that you look at, in the investment side is a very important part of it. So whether we launch closed-end funds, whether we launch an equity income fund, what is the products that we advertise. See, it was very easy for any of us to have advertised mid-cap fund 6 months back. But if you go and advertise the product which has the lowest one-year return, it calls for some difficulty. So I would say investment plays a big role. Then I would say that the board, the CEO, and the other stakeholders play a very big role, because if people measure the AMC only by the AUM that it has, that forces you to a number of problems. Whereas if the board measures by the percentage of AUM beating benchmark and the percentage of the AUM delivering experience better than bank deposits, that would be a very different way of looking at it. But it's a continuous process, because in many other industries, if you are number one, you have achieved it. Here, if you are number one, and if you look and see, if the biggest schemes of 1999 do not have AUM today. Some of the very successful schemes of 2007 have AUMs which are less than 1,000 crores today. So I think, there is a process of education, and I think the board has a big role to play, and the people like the CIO and the CEO have a job to communicate to the board that in big bull markets, AUM is no way of measuring AMC. So these are jobs which are difficult, but we'll keep trying. And as I said, as long as we manage to handle a next bubble well, I would say we've achieved customer service.
Rajiv, this is probably directed to you, but Ganesh mentioned about what is the role of customer self-service versus intermediation, right? Especially in the asset management industry. So, however, if you look at it, you will, the fact is that the last mile investor servicing, whether it is on the distribution side, whether it is communicating the product benefits, communicating the fund performance, or indeed actually helping the investor on the transactions, it has in effect been given out to the distributors, right? Whether these are IFAs and, large IFAs, small IFAs, the large banks, the securities companies, in effect, the last mile delivery of customer service is being managed by the distributors. The question to you is, outside of the few large, well-established distributor houses, do the distributors have sufficient incentive? and indeed the right infrastructure to enable good investor services to the customers?
So, let me take some of the conversations that's been happening so far. First and foremost, I think one of the great things that the asset management industry has done over the years is standardize customer service. So to answer your first question on is customer service a differentiator, my answer is no. And as a distributor, I mean, I don't see a difference between one asset manager and the other, because I think in general the customer service across asset managers is excellent. Then we are really competing on, as Naren said, in terms of the quality of products and in terms of fund performance, etc., which I think is a good situation to be in. The next question to ask is, customer service, are we talking about the end consumer, or are we talking about the intermediary? And let's be real here, all the customer service that the asset management company does is as far as the distributor is concerned. There is very little conversation, there is very little interaction with the end consumer. And that's the model, and that's what asset managers in general are sort of going out to provide for, which is not a bad thing. Do you want more direct customers? Do you want customers to self-serve themselves? That's a choice that the industry needs to make. But I think as far as the fact that today the asset management business or the buying of mutual funds, if you just heard what Naren said, I'm a fund manager in my old days, and I completely understand what he says. But I think there's so much of manufacturer speak in there, the end consumer really doesn't understand that. And so therefore the distribution community plays a very, very critical role in demystifying all that people like Naren do, and simplifying that and getting the money into the asset management business. And so therefore I think it is an imperative that the asset manager is able to provide standardized and excellent service to the distribution community, who in turn will pass this on to the end consumer. Because I think at the end of the day, as far as the end consumer is concerned, customer service for him is what the distributor provides him. He really doesn't care on whether there is a big differentiation between customer service on one asset manager versus the other. Customer service is equal to what the distributor provides. And so therefore the asset manager needs to ensure that the distribution community is armed with everything that is needed for them to be able to serve the end consumer.
No, I think that's exactly the issue here, and Vivek, it will be good to get your thoughts on this, because I think whether it is the area of distribution, whether it's the area of post-purchase experience, or indeed investor services in the more transactional definition of the term, I think the reality is that the asset managers are quite removed, are one layer removed from the customers as opposed to any other industry, right? Whether it's airline, e-commerce, banking, etc. So in your opinion, is that firstly a model that is the preferred model? Are you comfortable with that model? And if yes or if not, what are some of the challenges that as an asset manager you face, especially in standardizing communication and delivery across, let's say the 30,000 distributors that exist in the industry today?
So firstly, I disagree with Rajiv, because in India, the regulator demands that the asset management companies have ownership of the client. In India, clients don't trade on an omnibus basis. If I go my offshore overseas, some of the large distributors like a Citibank, they just give me one consolidated investment. But in India, I get the underlying investments, the underlying records are on my system, and much as distributors would like to say that they take care of all the customer service, we get tens of thousands of calls, we get thousands of letters, we get several emails and all kinds of queries. So I think in India the manufacturers have a direct role to play. I'm not saying the distributors don't have a big role, the distributors have a very big role, and we have a big role to support the distributors. But we are not that removed from the end investor as we truly are in some markets. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'd like to say is that, this industry has done more for the distribution community and for investors that you can even imagine or which any other industry has done. Let me give some examples. For example, this industry has a common KYC. So if you do your KYC with one asset, with your first KYC, if you get it done, subsequently you don't need to do a KYC when you invest with another fund house. And if you make a change to any record, any of your details, it gets transmitted through to all AMCs. So that's the first. Secondly, we've set up a mutual fund utility, a platform for distributors. Now, distributors can come and access all funds, all asset management companies on a single platform. They can look at their book of business across the industry. Investors can look at their investments across the industry. That, Ganesh just said that 95% of the transactions today are paper. Why should they be on paper when you now have the platform? It's because people haven't adapted to that, and the platform is new. And I'm sure the platform has some glitches, some challenges. But there's a huge, huge opportunity there. I mean, Ramesh was telling me that for every common account number that is there, customer account number that is there, they are 9.22 kind of folios, right? I mean, that means one customer account number, there are 9 investments on one combination across the industry. Now think, if you start using the MF utility, you can kind of consolidate all this information. The ability for an investor or a distributor to save time, costs, etc. is enormous. It's just enormous. The other point I'd like to make is that we've seen in Franklin Templeton, now the regulator has mandated a direct share class at a lower cost to the investor in India. So that is, that is by regulation. Now, there are many investors who come directly. And I will say that going forward, the millennials will not necessarily want to come through a distributor, nor will a distributor want to deal. How many distributors here deal with somebody who's just got a first job and has got only 1,000 rupees to invest? Very few are interested, because it is not cost effective to deal with that investors. If you look at RDR in the UK, anybody who's got less than 50,000 has been orphaned. There's no distributor who's interested, there's no advisor who's interested in those clients. So those clients come through platforms, they come directly. And the millennials who are used to technology, we also have, we also know a little bit about technology, but technology is not part of our DNA as it is for millennials. To assume that they will come the same way, their preferences are the same, I think is a huge misconception. So technology is driving change, is bringing investors to us directly, partly facilitated by regulation, partly by investor needs. And when they come to us directly, a self-directed investor who's tech savvy, the requirements are different. They want instant answers. They want 24/7 service. They want simplicity. Right? So all of this means that both the distributors as well as the asset management companies have a huge role to play in providing service and a huge need to upgrade. So we have upgraded, we have created a digital ecosystem. Somebody mentioned that if you need to draw in investors, we have a full social media platform that we've created, and we engage with investors through digital advertising, because there are a whole bunch of investors nobody is touching. The total number of investors in this industry, unique investors, is less than 2 crores. Now that's quite a lot, because if you have only 4 crore taxpayers, we talk about low penetration levels. I'd like to dispel that notion also. We have only 4 crore income tax payers. We've got 2 crore unique investors, give or take a little bit in the industry. That means we've achieved 50% penetration of the market that we were allowed to penetrate. Right? Now, imagine if Aadhaar is made adequate KYC, we can step that up by a multiple of 10, 20. But when the investor is only 1,000 rupees, none of you are going to service that investor. So we have to provide a direct to investor access. We have to provide a direct to investor proposition. And the two have to run in parallel. I think distributors have a very important role to play, and I tell people ask me that don't you think that distributors are getting disenfranchised when you go to them direct? I say no. Firstly, low-end investors, tech-savvy investors come to us. Once they achieve some, some level of wealth, they will not come without advice. They will find an advisor, because it's okay to invest directly when you've got only 1,000 rupees at stake. But if you've got, $10 million at stake, you can't be investing directly. So the point I'm making is that we, the industry, has an obligation to the end investor which we discharge. We have no option but to discharge that. Technology is a key element of that, but it's to the credit of the industry we've made a unique platform available to distributors. That is an industry-owned platform. It's not a for-profit platform. So the distributors don't have to pay a fee for participating on that, as opposed to in many countries, once the platforms become large, they squeeze both the asset management companies and the distributors. So we have an industry-owned platform, a very unique proposition. Everything is being provided on a platter. It's now for everybody here to embrace all the technology and all the systems, all the platforms that we provided. And I feel that the only other point I'll make is that the mutual fund platform and mutual fund utility is very narrowly seen as a service platform. I think it's the biggest distribution platform you have. If you are a distributor today, you don't need to collect forms and checks from anybody. You can take a laptop and a portable printer, and you can expand your reach. If you go and meet a client who has a PAN, eventually all of that the utility is going to provide. You have to think a little, you have to expand your horizons. You can go, you should be able to, from the PAN, get the investor details. You should be able to drop down menus, get the fund details. And you should be able to have a standard application form created on the mutual fund utility platform. That's where it's all going to head. Don't just look at it from a narrow perspective today. So, huge investments the industry has made. We don't get enough credit. I think partly we are our own worst enemy. We don't get enough credit for that. But rest assured, the industry has taken a lot of steps, and you will see the transformation over the next several years.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you. Prashant, this one's to you. I think we've heard Ganesh speak about it, and we've heard Vivek speak about it. The fact that the industry has actually made significant investments in opening up multiple channels to the investors, whether it is the asset manager themselves opening up channels like their own branches, call centers, chat facilities, SMS to invest, or indeed some of the R&T providers. The problem, however, remains that if you ask any average layman investor, right, that I have a problem, where do I go? The answer almost always is I go to my distributor. So my question to you is, from your perspective of having been in an asset management company and now heading an R&T provider, do you think this is a question of intent or execution on the part of the industry players?
Okay, how I would like to answer that question is that an investor need not be an investor in one segment, right? There are these educated investors, and we said we are looking at people who are coming in direct. Their needs are a little different from the traditional investment through distributors. So Vivek was mentioning that earlier, and he said these are not, these technology-savvy investors have a different set of needs, whether it is from choosing the fund to invest, which means the advisory, which we are completely missing at sometimes, or it is from the post-investment service that the RTA offers. So their requirements are a little different from the requirements of a distributor who services a lot of investors around the world. So that's where we are supposed to position ourselves as RTA, and I think we should have two sets of offerings that we have. One for the people who are coming in direct, and to be able to respond to them with a different screen and a different platform, vis-a-vis what we get from distributors. There are distributors, there are aggregations happening, and there are platforms that are being created and feeds that are being received electronically. Those are some of those are places where the challenges of data entry errors are kind of mitigated and reduced. Whereas on the other side, we do have, like Ganesh said, I would imagine, I would like to answer that question in a differentiated offering, and service then becomes an enabler to fund performance, which Naren mentioned. So it's something which is today a given, and that's where we should position ourselves.
And in your opinion, what would it take to get this message across to investors that there are these multiple channels that you could indeed, access? Whether it's the asset manager branches or the call centers or, all the services that the RMTs themselves are providing.
That I think got answered in the morning. So you have investor awareness campaigns, which are typically, kind of underutilized today in terms of reaching out to the direct investor, to the end investor. That's where our focus should be. And I think as an industry, we can invest not only together instead of trying to break it down into each AMC or each RTA. That's where I think our focus should be coming.
That's very helpful. I think, we've heard multiple viewpoints on this panel, and it looks like there is still no clear consensus on indeed what is the definition of investor services and if investor services is important or not. So I want to close this by asking each of you the same question. Two sub questions actually. The first is, in your opinion, is investor services important area for the asset management industry to focus on? And what would be, in your mind, the top two things that the industry needs to do, whether it is the asset managers, RMTs, distributors, I mean, that is whoever the key participants would be. So Rajiv, maybe we can start with you and we can go on.
Like I said, investor service is necessary but not sufficient to differentiate. As far as what needs to be done in the banking industry now, most banks, at least most private sector banks, 80% of transactions are on digital or electronic platforms. And I think the mutual fund industry needs to go in that direction.
Yeah. I also feel that investor services is very, very important, and I feel that investor servicing and fund performance go hand in hand. It's as important as the fund performance is. And the second point, that we have to make it very, very simple, very democratized simplicity and affordable and reachable. See, today the servicing is being provided by as you were saying, a distributor. And I am worried about the people who are not being serviced by the distributors who are being left because of the economic model, business model, how to handle that. So we have to make more and more, the way we are saying, the digitalization for the smallest investor also, so that we can get more.
I have no doubt that investor or customer service or investor service is very important. I mean, I think we forget what the industry is providing. We provide a service that doesn't cost anybody 1 cent. We don't charge for anything. Please try and go to a bank for a service. Nowadays, if you walk into a bank, there's a charge. Right? Right? I'll tell you, nobody comes to the branch because you charge, so nobody wants to come. The fact is, you go to a bank for a statement, let's be honest. Go and ask for a statement, there's a charge. I get charged by my bank for a debit card. For anything, there is a charge. Right? This industry provides its entire service free of cost to all constituents. Right? There is no other industry, financial services industry, does that, get me wrong, there is no other service. Right? So that's the first thing. The point I want to make is that whether we like it or no, technology is going to be a big disruptor for all of us in everything that we do. Right? 20 years ago, we all used to walk into banks. Today, most of us don't go to banks. Right? For many different reasons, including it could be a torture to go to a bank. Okay? It's very difficult. In the old days, you walk in the bank, you have to spend 20 minutes in the cash queue. Right? So that's why people, because of convenience. So technology needs to be adopted by all of us. We have to provide the solutions and the ability for people to transact and deal with us electronically through technology. And you as distributors also need to, and many distributors here, also need to embrace technology, because whether we like it or no, when the next generation comes, if you are not technologically totally enabled, they're not going to want to deal with you. So I feel that technology and disruptive technology is going to drive us in the direction of completely overhauling our service delivery in the next, in the next decade.
It's very difficult for me to answer a question which is around whether investor service is important. Given the role I play in the dais I sit, it's not going to be possible for me to say no. Okay, so that's quite an obvious answer, but why I said that is with the perspective. Not in the distant past, about 10, 12, 15 years back, investors used to be very happy if they got their shares transferred within a month. If they bought Infosys or Wipro, because within a month, if they are able to do it, the markets were anyway on an upswing, and once they sell, they get their returns and they are very happy. And we used to have conversations, 4 hafte mein kar dena. We'll get it done in 4 weeks, we'll be grateful. So from that context, we have come to a stage where it is anytime, anywhere, service, high availability, multiple channels and things like that. The other important factor that I want to mention is that when it comes to investor service, there is a whole lot of, and I'm going to take a very tangential view here, don't get me wrong. There's a whole lot of discussion that I have with every stakeholder, and that is on digital platform, that is on digital strategy, that is on digital media. Everything that is digital is a very high conversation item with the who's who in this industry. So we also invested big time because we said we have to be in the race, we need to do this, that, etc. As I speak, we have some of the best online relationship management tools that we have invested in. And trust me, for the scale and size, we service, as Karvy, we service about 7 crore investors between corporates and mutual funds. In a month, with the best of online relationship management tool that we have, we hardly get 20 conversations picked up in a month about some negative service. But when we discuss, and that's in the context of about 4 to 5 million transactions that we process in a month. That's the context. So I think we need to set that context right and understand how, and maybe not overplay digital media. We need to be there 1 year from now, we need to be there 2 years from now, the investments have to start now, all the engagements have to start now. But I would say that rather than looking at digital listening, you could be digital distribution, which means you could tell your dividends be announced to the entire digital world, to the entire social media world, etc. Those conversations are very intelligent, very useful, should happen. But digital listening, kind of convoluting the whole thought process that there are 20 guys coming in across Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, etc., and then trying to draw some inferences around it, I think is a little far-fetched at this stage. The other thing about service, which is very critical for all of us to understand, is that, let me take the airline industry. Which is the best airline that we all look for in India today? Trust me, the airline which goes on time. Is that service or is that hygiene? Would you expect your airline to go by 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. as they have promised? Or would you expect that, okay, there are conventional delays with ABCD airlines, but the X airline normally goes on time? So let me catch hold of, as business users I am telling, I'm not talking about cost also are cheaper by the way, and other parameters. We are only talking about a hygiene being met. That somebody has promised me at 8 o'clock he will deliver then we say they are great service providers, they are the most happening thing in the industry, and so on, in the airline industry, I mean. And so on. For what? For just going on time? That's what you get paid for, man. So the point that I'm making is that there is enough and more that is there in the MF industry. And we call that, like the telecom industry, value-added services. Oh, there is a series, I can just go on. You can do a missed call service, you can do an SMS alert, you can do a pull SMS, you can do a push SMS, you can have an anytime SIP, you can have a fast-forward SIP, you can have one-time mandate, you can have interval funds, you can have semi-interval funds, you can have online trading, you can have not so online trading, you can have a mix of paper and online trading, and so on. Again and again, my request to this audience is that we need to drive usage. If we are able to drive usage and we get some benefits from the regulator as well, this industry will see a paradigm change. One small example, two examples I'll give and then I'll hand over. She's already looking at me. One, so one is the fact that if you take Myntra.com, they have gone completely digital on the mobile. If you do www.myntra.com, you'll get nothing. They've gone on the mobile. They've taken a strategic decision to go on the mobile. What is Myntra aimed at? Fashion, high quality apparels and things like that. What are they getting into? With the mobile, you can take a photograph. That photograph you can insert on that app in a jiffy. And then apply all the clothes to feel like you are Shah Rukh Khan or you are Aishwarya Rai. You can do whatever you want and then decide whether you want to buy or not. So again, if you take this bank called Atom Bank in UK, they're still to come out. There is a bank in Germany, I forget the name, Arbit or something, I'm not able to get the name, I'm sorry. Those banks are digital banks. There is no service center. They manage about 3.5 lakh customers with 24 employees, sitting in all one location. So if we take that view and say, I will make availability only through this channel, and you cannot use a plethora or only those 2-3 channels, trust me, this entire transformation will happen in this industry. Next time when we sit here, we'll say mutual fund industry services are like nobody else, it's the best. And the others were like far behind.
Okay, taking
So
off
I
from...
want to live up to that.
Yeah, so I'm saying taking off from Ganesh is a difficult task, but having said that, what I think is in terms of service being, like I said, an enabler, it's very much an essential, but is it sufficient, like Rajiv said? No, it isn't. So it's going to do more damage if it's not there than if it is there. That's something which has clearly come out, I think, here as well as in the morning. What we need to do probably, we can go in this direction of adoption. Somebody said adoption happened in the banks, for example, because we implemented charges. There are requests, like for example, you have requests for statements, one after the other. So can we ensure adoption by introducing charges there? Can we do some of those? Or can we take the traditional path of saying technology is an enabler, where we can go one step further? Somebody talked about target date funds, 401k investments and things like that. I mean, target date funds is something that we can do. Even if we can't do it, launch it as a fund, for example. What I don't think in days to come, we can probably do automatic asset rebalancing for the investor. And that's the way to go to offer him a differentiated offering. But again, that's for a limited set of people. So we build adoption for people coming in direct, which helps us cut costs, helps us get better data created. And that's where we need to invest in something like an advisory, which helps him take decisions. For example, I've had some experience in, I understand in the US, for example, someone who tries to trade online, 60% of the investments are closed on that day or on that time itself because the advisory is very strong. So do we invest there and close the trade for this segment? While we do investments of rationalizing, instead of having 9 different channels, can we do only 2 different channels for the distributed So that's the kind of dichotomy that we are at, and I think going forward we should invest time as an industry debating these 2 different streams of our investors who come in direct or through intermediate and try to build different models around it. That's what I think is very important.
Broadly, everyone has covered what I needed to talk on. So Basically, we have to create a good investor experience. The moment we create a good investor experience, we can become much bigger than where we are. So as far as what constitutes investor experience, obviously it's investor service, product strategy and technology. I think as an industry, there is huge scope, as almost everyone pointed out, for adoption of technology. Otherwise, just think that today for us to go to an ATM and draw money is natural. But even today, if I'm told 95% is still check and application form, I think that 95 can't stay 95. It has to come down to maybe 10 or 20 over a period of time. That involves everyone changing their way of thinking. Just like today ATM is part of our DNA, to move from 95 to 10 would be necessary over a period of time. Given the cost that will be involved in collecting a check from the customer and then giving it to the registrar agency, I think it is impossible that the 95 can stay 95. So this process of 95 to 10 has to be embraced by all of us, all the customers, all the distributors and the manufacturers. And I think that is going to be what will make us 5 times bigger or 10 times bigger. Thank you.
So thank you all for your thoughts, for taking time out and coming and speaking on this important topic. I think before we close, we have time for a couple of quick questions from the audience. I already see 2 hands going up, so
Two questions, madam, please, if I could get them across. One is to Mr. Ganesh. You remember these fantastic figures of, so many applications coming in, and 0.7%, 0.07, isn't it, you said, is the ratio of complaints which you get. That may be from your side. Me as a distributor, if I've got 100 customers and 5 of them have a problem with redemptions, with signature differs, bank attestation, this, that, for me it's 5%. So even though technically you may be happy with your 0.07%, I am not. Okay. Second thing, Mr. Vivek said MFU has been established and you now have a common application form. It took, I think, us 15 years to decide where we want to and what has happened. Even today, MFU is not completely seamless. It is not completely online. You still need to fill in a form, take a printout, take the customer signature, get a check and get it deposited at the POS. By the way, how many distributors do you know who carry a portable printer? 90% of distributors, small distributors, don't even have a printer in their office. They will go to the AMC's office and get the forms. So why can't we move to a completely seamless online model? Something like what Funds India is doing. Everything is online. There is a one-time registration and then everything is online. Right from the application to the digital signature to the online transfer of money. Today, most of the mutual funds have come out with apps. So there is an ICICI app, there is an Axis Bank, Axis Mutual Fund app, there is a Reliance app. As a distributor, am I supposed to have 20 apps on my phone with 20 login IDs and 20 passwords? Why can't there be a single app across the mutual fund industry? If all of us can put our heads together and get MFU, which probably I think is dated, why can't we have a common online platform or a common app? All this is what I wanted to ask. Please, whoever can take this.
मैं सॉरी जबलपुर से आया हूँ, डीडी शर्मा IFA हूँ, गांव से हूँ, और विवेक सर की भी बड़ी बड़ी अच्छी बातें सुनी मैंने। हमारे यहाँ पर हर कोई AMC जो है वो अमिताभ बच्चन बनने की कोशिश करती हैं, बोले हम अपना रजिस्ट्रार लेके आएंगे, हम अपना ऐप लेके आएंगे। हमारे पास जो एग्जिस्टिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, जैसे फिननेट मैं यूज़ करता हूँ, वहाँ हमने उसी को पावरफुल क्यों नहीं बनाया? ऑल AMC मिलके जो है वो फिननेट को ही कर देते, नहीं फिननेट हो गया उधर, फिर उधर एक नया आ गया, फिर एक AMC बोली मैं अपना लेके आ रहा हूँ, रजिस्ट्रार बन गए अलग अलग। तो इंडिया में सबसे पहली चीज मैं चाहता हूँ, मैं रोज मेरे पास नई बात, आज ये नया ऐप आ गया है, ये नया फॉर्म हो गया है, मैं गारंटी के साथ अगर मेरा फॉरेन का इन्वेस्टर आया है, मैं उसका अगर एक फॉर्म साइन करा लूँ तो वो फॉर्म गारंटी नहीं है कि वो एप्लीकेबल है उस दिन। तो थोड़ा ये आप लोग ना ये बड़ी बड़ी बातें जो करने की जगह बड़ी छोटी और सिंपल बातें करें और एकदम इजी चीज करें कि भाई ओके हमारे यहाँ कार्वी और टेंस है रजिस्ट्रार, तो हम लीजिए चलो रजिस्ट्रार को ही सब काम दे दें। हम अपने घर में हम सब खुद करना चाहते हैं, जैसे बैंक, पहले बैंक बैंकिंग करते थे, आज म्यूचुअल फंड भी कर रहे हैं, इंश्योरेंस भी कर रहे हैं, बोले सब कुछ हम करेंगे बाकी कोई कुछ नहीं करेगा। तो जो डायरेक्ट की बात आपकी आती है बड़ी अच्छी है, पर मेरे को नहीं लगता है कि आप कोशिश भी करिए और देखिए अगले 5 साल में आपके पास अगर इन्वेस्टर डायरेक्ट इतने आ जाते हैं जितने आईएफए लेके आते हैं और आप उनको सर्व कर पाते हैं कि नहीं, पहले जो आईएफए हैं उन्हीं को आप सर्व कर लीजिए तो बहुत अच्छा होगा। और सेकंड पॉइंट है कि आपके पास ऑलरेडी जो पुराना है ना उसको आप अच्छा कर लीजिए मिलके, और आप लोग सिर्फ ध्यान दीजिए अपने प्रोडक्ट पर, तो मेरे ख्याल से इस आगे बहुत हम बढ़ जाएंगे। बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातें सुनते हैं हम और उन पे इम्प्लीमेंट कर दीजिए। सिंगल केवाईसी और ये सुबह से देखने नहीं मिल रहा मेरे को। हम नई नई बातें कर रहे हैं 2020 2030 में हर साल लेके जाता हूँ, पढ़ता हूँ। मैं गांव में काम करता हूँ, वहां पर जबलपुर से अगर गार्डर वाला जाना 100 किलोमीटर 6.5 घंटे लगते हैं, पर हम लोग काम करके लेके आते हैं। हमारी लाइफ इजी कर दीजिए। हम फिननेट जो है यूज कर रहे हैं ना, फिननेट को ही आप सही कर दीजिए, हमारा काम अच्छे से हो जाएगा और आप सब लोग मिलकर फिननेट को अपना लीजिए। राइट, थैंक यू, आगे दीजिए।
Excuse me, regarding the same question, again I am supporting, adding on that. So after that you give the answer to all three questions. So जब हम लोग, I am basically from Nashik, B15 beyond 15 cities. जब हम लोग बात करते हैं कि भाई इन्वेस्टर सर्विसेज, जब हम लोग ये मल्टीपल यूटिलिटी फॉर्म, एमएफ यूटिलिटी फॉर्म पे कॉमन एप्लीकेशन लेके आ रहे हैं, क्या मैं जितना भी रिस्पेक्टेड गाया सभी जो बैठा है उनसे एक गुजारिश कर सकता हूँ कि आप एक कॉमन एप्लीकेशन नहीं ला सकते हैं प्रिंटेड? हर एमसी अपना अपना एप्लीकेशन लेके आता है। एक बाजू हम लोग ग्रीन की बात कर रहे हैं, दूसरी बाजू हम लोग हर कोई अपना अपना अलग अलग एप्लीकेशन लेके आता है। तो एक कॉमन एप्लीकेशन हम लोग सब म्यूचुअल फंड मिलकर नहीं बना सकते? कितने हम लोग एज ए एजेंट, हम लोग हमारे ऑफिस में कितने 20 25 30 म्यूचुअल फंड के फॉर्म रखेंगे? उसके बारे में हम लोग क्यों नहीं सोचते? केवाईसी जब पूरा बैंक के थ्रू ट्रांजैक्शन हो रहा है तो फिर अलग केवाईसी की जरूरत क्या है? तीसरी एक चीज, हर साल हम लोग जिंदा है इसका हम लोगों को प्रूफ देना पड़ेगा सेल्फ डिक्लेरेशन का। जब हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं तो आपको पता है कमीशन तो उसके बेसिस पे आ रहा है, तो हर साल ये सेल्फ डिक्लेरेशन जब तक नहीं देंगे तब तक कमीशन नहीं आता है। तो उसके बारे में रिस्पेक्टेड डायस कुछ सोचेगा? आज B15 के अगर आप जाइए, जितने भी इन्वेस्टर सर्विसेज आईआईपी हम लोग करते हैं, B15 में कितने हैं? आज मैं आपको बताता हूं, आप कोई भी कस्बे में चले जाइए, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल से 10 किलोमीटर दूर चले जाइए, उनको पता नहीं म्यूचुअल फंड क्या है। इज दिस अ सक्सेस ऑफ द आईआईपी?
Okay, in the interest of time, in the interest of time, can you just articulate the specific question that you have, that you want answered, or should we just treat these as comments?
We want answer.
Okay, please go ahead.
So thanks all of you for giving very valuable inputs. ऐसा मत सोचिएगा कि we are trying to dump your requirements or not fulfill या बड़े-बड़े बातें करने के लिए बैठे हैं। 2-3 things I want to tell you. First, let me start with some positive. आप लोग, you will agree that over a period of time, we are the only industry which has come up with a common account statement. कस्टमर को सब जगह से मिलके एक ही स्टेटमेंट मिलता है पूरा पोर्टफोलियो अक्रॉस म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री. You will agree that we also accept a common transaction form of the distributor for उसको first purchase छोड़ दीजिए आप. एडिशनल परचेज, रिडेम्पशन, स्विचेस, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का फॉर्म में हम लोग ट्रांजैक्शन अलाउ करते हैं, कोई भी फंड रहे तो कुछ ना कुछ तो हो रहा है. इंश्योरेंस में तो आपको हर एक का अलग अलग फॉर्म फिल करना पड़ेगा, हर एक का अलग अलग प्रोसीजर करना पड़ेगा. बैंक में हर एक का अलग अलग अकाउंट सेटअप करने के लिए एक एक फॉर्म करना पड़ेगा. एटलीस्ट दैट इज नॉट देयर, देयरफॉर वी आर प्रोग्रेसिंग इन द राइट डायरेक्शन. we are all working towards a common application form, it will become a reality. Coming to the fact that whether we should use Finnet, and I am very thankful कि आपने Finnet के बारे में बताया क्योंकि वो हम लोगों का product है. Coming to the fact that Finnet use करना या MFU platform use करना या BSc, NSc use करना, this is a debate that I am also having for a long period of time. I'll give one example. India में कितने के पास WhatsApp है? हाथ उठाइए. How many people have WhatsApp in this room? How many people have WeChat in this room? उठाइए. हाँ. तो पता चला आपको? WeChat is the most popular in China. WhatsApp is the most popular in India. और सर्विस देखो आप दोनों की, कोई फर्क नहीं दिखेगा. I'm sorry. Can I speak in Hindi?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
So सर्विस में कोई फर्क नहीं है. ये भी वीडियो चैट देता है, वो भी देता है. ये भी इंटरनेट कॉल देता है, वो भी देता है. ये भी आप ईमेल भेजते रहो, वो भी लेते रहेगा. Therefore, industry has to evolve itself to find a platform which is appropriate. Today the challenge is a problem of plenty. It's like US. You want to go and buy cheese. इंडिया में आपको मिलेगा अमूल चीज, ब्रिटानिया चीज, ज्यादा से ज्यादा. यूएस में तो बाल उखड़ाएंगे आपको. 100 चीज पड़ा हुआ है और कोई बताने वाला भी नहीं है. यहाँ तो आप लोग एडवाइजर हैं तभी भी बताते हैं. वहां पे कोई बताने वाला नहीं है. There's nobody to tell which cheese to buy. आप कुछ उल्टा चीज ले लिया, आप वेजिटेरियन है, नॉन वेजिटेरियन चीज खा लेंगे आप. ऐसी हालत है. So all I am trying to say, I am not trying to defend. All I am trying to explain to you, all these platforms are important. I don't want that we all, any of us disrespect any of these platforms. What will emerge is what is most suited to the end customer. And we have heard this before lunch as well. What is suited to the customer is what is going to survive in the marketplace. So we will try to make sure the services are provided. As regards that question on redemption, I wouldn't, as I said in my part of the conversation, that's a different issue. That's not, definitely it's an investor service issue, but it is not complaint in that sense. We are all tied up with various rules and regulations. So I will take that offline and definitely answer that gentleman there who spoke about it. Okay? Rest assured, sir.
Ganesh, thank you very much. We will close this session with some comments from Vivek.
So first of all of you commented, I accept the comments. We are not where we would like to be, but we are making an effort. I mean, to get industry collaboration, this mutual fund utility, we first proposed it in December 2007. It has got implemented in January 2015, and we are only 40 fund houses. It took us 8 years to implement it. So for a variety of reasons, things take a lot of time when collaboration is required. But we are trying, and we are making these services available for free, for whatever it is worth. People have always people say when you give something free, people don't describe any value to it. I think I agree we should move to common standards. I agree we should move to common platforms. We can't all have a common app for you, much as I would like to say that all of us can put together a common app. You may have, but all your constituents also have. The mutual fund utility will also have a app that will take care of everything. So the idea is that we were in a 100% paper environment, which was not acceptable. Clients now want to deal with us through multiple channels. So we have to offer multiple channels to the clients. We recognize that distribution still, and I think for a conceivably long period of time, will continue to give 80-85% of the business. Maybe it will come down to maybe 75, but it's not going to go down much below that. Right? And so we are working with you. You've given comments, but I think the utility gives you a common platform. Don't discard it. There will be teething problems. I'm the first to accept that there will be teething problems. But longer term, it's a collaborative effort of the industry to make something available for you. It will evolve over time. And as the transaction volumes build up and it becomes commercially viable, I think we will have a good story to tell. So I accept all the comments and I take the criticism. Criticism is well founded. But I think we have to take the longer term view. Rome was not built in a day, they say. And
So you cannot expect that something as complicated as an industry-wide platform offered by nobody else in no other industry in India should be successful from day one and provide all the functionalities. It's not possible. It's not realistic. But we are working for it. That is my answer.
Okay, with that, thank you very much all the panelists and the audience for a very honest and lively conversation. Thank you once more. We now have breaking for tea. The tea is served outside and we'll reconvene for the panel discussion on distribution in 15 minutes from now.